All right, so we're going to continue on. Right now, I don't know if yours looks like this or not, but I changed. I'd already created the stuff, but I just removed it. So when I do a show tables from the Southwind database, the only thing it shows me as being in there is the products table. All right, yours is probably the same unless you've added something else. So what I want to do now is we want to talk about one-to-many relationships. So notice what it says. We're going to make the assumption, suppose that each product has one supplier and each supplier supplies one or more products. It says we could create a table called suppliers to store the supplier's data. Now, why they ended up creating this table and have the telephone number with 8 digits, I don't have any kind of clue. But they did, and it's okay. So we'll just use what they have. It's no big thing. So we're going to create a column with a unique value called supplier ID to identify each supplier. Supplier ID will be the primary key or our unique record identifier. All right? And then to relate the suppliers table, please look up on the screen here. We're about to create this table. But after we create this table, this is our products table. But it does not yet have this, so we're going to have to alter the products table to put in this field. Did you hear that? It's a very important concept because we haven't really done much of anything with alter table yet. You may remember I mentioned the first day there are 3 of these data definition language commands. 3 commands that work with the schema: create, alter, and drop. We've done create, we've done drop. We're now about to do alter. So, if you have this page up on your screen here, if you don't have the Southwind database active, do a use Southwind. If you do, great. Next, we're going to, do you really have to do this? I'm asking you this question. What's up there in the blue? Do you really have to do that? The answer is no. If you know you don't have a table named suppliers, I'm going to do it because I think I showed you this before, but I want to show it to you. Notice that's my only table. So I copied this to the clipboard, right mouse click, and hit enter. Notice I get 1 warning. And if I type in show warnings, it's telling me, okay, you said create, you said drop table if exists. It doesn't exist. It's not giving me an error though. So if I came in here and did this, okay, now I can say drop table, I'm going to just say drop table suppliers. Now I get an error. So if you want to drop something or create something and you're okay with warnings, but you never want to see errors when this happens, don't do a drop table. Do a drop table if exists. Don't do a create table. Do a create table if not exists type of an idea. All right? So enough on that. So I'm going to go back to this, and now I'm going to grab all of this. Please look. Do not grab the prompt. Your prompt looks different, but do not grab that, or you're going to get an error message. Grab all this stuff. There's no reason for you to type it in, especially if you're not a good typist. Well, that's the only way I'll get better. Not here. Practice that on your own. So highlight all this from the create table suppliers down to the ending semicolon, copy it to the clipboard, bring it back in here, paste it in, and hit enter. And if it comes back with 0 rows affected like this, it worked. If it comes back with an error message, I don't know what you did. But now if I type in show tables, notice I have products and I have suppliers. All right, somebody, not, somebody who normally doesn't answer questions, answer this question. What am I going to get back from that query? Nothing. That's correct, nothing. Technically, it's going to say empty set, which means nothing. Why am I going to get back nothing? It's what? We have the table, but we don't have any data in it yet, right? So when we hit this, boom, it says empty set. That's what it should say. But we copied this in. Are you all comfortable now with the fact, looking at this, supplier ID is our primary key. It's our unique record identifier. So each supplier ID that we put in must be unique. All right, that's our first field. It's an unsigned integer, so it can't be negative and it can't be left blank. Then we've got a name. The name is varchar 30, and the default will be the empty string. Then we've got a phone number that, again, they made 8, and the default will be the empty string. And our primary key is the supplier ID. I'm going to assume, unless I hear otherwise from you, that that makes sense. Because when we get to the point where I'm giving you your first worksheet, I'm going to tell you the fields that go into each table. But I'm not going to give you the command to create the tables. Did everybody hear that? I'm going to say you're going to have this field and it's going to have these fields in it. But you write the command for me, you write the create table command. All right? That's going to be part of your grade is, are you able to do this? All right, so then we jump back here. And we did the describe suppliers. I already did that and showed it to you. Now we're going to go down to here where it says insert into table, into suppliers. Notice they manually keyed in the numbers. Everybody see that? That's manually done. Even though it's an auto increment field, they're manually putting in 501, 502, and 503. If we wanted to, we could put in 501 here and make that null, and it would automatically make those 502 and 503. It's fine the way it is. So I'm highlighting all that, copying it to the clipboard, and again, pasting it in. Hit enter. If it comes back three rows affected, it worked. Again, as we're going through this, I can see Ethan's machine, I can see a little bit of Ivy's machine, and a little bit of Evan's machine. I can't see the other 6. So if something's not working and you're not asking, I have to assume that it's working and you understand what we're doing. That if you don't get it, you're going to ask. So if let's say that Colin says, well, I don't get this, but I don't really want to ask in front of everybody, then go back and redo the lesson on your own. All right? So now if I come in, and like we did before, I type in select star from suppliers. Before it was the empty set, now we have 3 records. That should make sense to you. So now we've created the table, which is what we did right here. Right here. And then we added the data, which is what we did right here. All right, so we've created a new table and we've added data to it. Please look up on the screen here. I'm going to describe products and I'm going to describe suppliers. Not meant to be a trick question. Is there a field between those 2 tables that's the same right now? Is there one? And actually, he's right. But the thing is, and then that actually is a really good answer, but that's a supplier name and that's a product name. If the bad thing is they're both the same size, so we could combine that information together, but it would be all screwed up. That would be like trying to say, do we have any people in here with a last name of Amin, as opposed to a first name type of an idea? But you're right. That right now, we need a field that's in common, so what we're going to do is we're going to copy this field called supplier ID from here into here. Now, I'm asking you this question. Please look up on the screen. I don't want to go on until people say they understand it. This is an example of a one-to-many relationship. Each supplier can have 0, 1, or more products. Does that make sense? Just like each parent can have 0, 1, or more kids. So when you do this and you copy the field from one table into the other table, you copy the primary key from the parent or the one side and you put that in here as, into the many side. That's just the way it's done. I've had people argue with me, well, why don't you do it the other way? It's not that you couldn't, you don't. All right? It's not that when you're in this country, it's not that you couldn't drive on the left side of the road, but you don't. All right? It's just a rule. That's just the way that it is. So when we go back here and we look, all right, this is what we want to have happen. We want to add that field into our products table. Does that make sense? That's what we want to do. So how do we do it? It's right here. And you can highlight it, but please, before you do it, just look up on the screen here. This is a data definition language command. We are changing the schema of the database. We are saying alter the table name products. We want to add a new column. By default, when you do add column, it puts it at the end. If you don't want it at the end, you can position where it goes. We don't care. So to the end, add a column named supplier ID, make it an int unsigned not null. Notice that we didn't give it a number and we didn't say primary key. It's not a primary key in this table. We've already got a primary key in the products table called product ID. So we're just copying this. All right, so I'm going to highlight it, copy it, and put it in here. Again, if it comes back with 0 rows affected, that's good. But please look up on the screen. Now, when I describe products, you see how we've got another field in here? That's the one we just added. So we altered our table and told it to add a new field, which it did by default to the end of our table. But please look up on the screen because this is the key thing right now. I'm doing a select star from products. Why did we get all those zeros? We haven't put anything in. That's half of it. The other half is that was the default. Technically it is. All right. But we have right now, that makes absolutely no sense to us. Now, we could go back in and let's pretend you might not have 11 rows. You might have 6 or 7. It doesn't matter. But we could go back in and write update statements for each one of these if we wanted to and give each one of these a different supplier. All right. What they ask you to do in the book right now, if you look up on your screen here, is they ask you to do this. Somebody tell me, what does that do? This line of code that's in blue, what does that line do? Yeah, for what? Yes, that's it. For everyone. There's no where statement. So were those all set 0? After we do this, if you run, when you get done, if you run the select star from products again, every supplier ID is going to be 501. Does that make sense? Because we didn't put a where statement on here. So I'm going to copy this to the clipboard, and I'm going to paste this in. Then I'm going to again say select star from products, and where these were all zeros before, now they're all 501. We can manually go and change any one of them we want to change. But for now, as far as we can tell, we only have one supplier. And that supplier is ABC Traders. Does that make sense to everybody? Can you see the linkage between these two? That 501 is this 501. All right, if we added a 502, that would mean we'd have XYZ Company. If we added a 503, that would mean QQ Corp. All right, but right now we're just following what's in the book. Okay, so now what we have to do is this. And before you do this, please take a look because this is what I want you to understand. When we take the supplier ID that we created right here, when we take that and we copy it into the table here, it's a special kind of key. It's not a primary key, but it's called a foreign key. F-O-R-E-I-G-N, like a foreign film. It's called a foreign key because we put that field into this table so that we can relate the two tables together. That's the sole reason for putting it in. So if you look back up on here, what we're saying is we want to go back and alter the products table. We want to make sure that now supplier is a foreign key and it references the supplier ID from the suppliers table. So in English, that's saying the supplier ID in the products table maps up with the supplier ID in the suppliers table. That's what we're telling it. Now, before you do it, maybe you did it already, which is fine. But notice if I type in right now, describe products. Would you all agree supplier ID is in there? It's right here. but it has nothing here under key. That's what we're going to provide right now. So if I paste that in, oh, I guess I didn't put it in yet. So if I paste that in from here, right there, copy, paste it in, hit enter, it says 11 rows were affected. All right, now if I come back and I select star, no, I want to describe products. See how it says mull now? Yours should say that too. For some reason it doesn't say like FOR for foreign, it says multiple. That's what the MUL stands for. That's the way they set it up. Databases are pieces of software, so by their very nature, they're not intelligent beings. Just because we took a supplier ID from one table and put it in another table, the system isn't smart enough to know that that's what we're going to use to relate those two tables together. This is how, with that second alter table statement, that's how we're telling it we're going to relate the two together. That's what we're letting it know. All right? And again, if this isn't making a lot of sense or any sense to you, you're going to have to go back and read this. And I want you to understand, next semester, what we'll be doing is we'll be using C#, all right? We're going to go through like about 18 chapters in the book. Some of them we'll just gloss over. Some of them we'll spend a lot of time on, okay? But when we come in, you're going to start it. You're going to come in and you're immediately, the first day of class, we're going to build a couple simple ASP.NET apps, and we're going to use C# to do it, okay? Then we get to about chapter 3 or 4, and good, bad, or indifferent, guess what? We got a chapter that's on HTML, and we got a chapter that's on CSS, all right? Because when you create C# inside of ASP.NET, it creates HTML pages for you. So we're going to do that, and you'll get hopefully very proficient at doing that. Then when we get to chapter 12, we bring the database component in. The reason I'm telling you that is none of the stuff you've learned so far is going away. You're just going to be putting it all together. So if you go, well, I went through this stuff and I don't really understand the lick of it, then I'd suggest that you go back on your own and reread everything and redo everything. Really. That's the only way, because practice doesn't make perfect, but practice makes better. All right, the only way that you're going to get proficient in this is to just practice it and practice it. Some of you I know struggle when we go through new things. That's the only way that you're going to learn. All right. All right. So now they ask us to go through here, and I'm not going to do it exactly the way they did it, just so you know. If you look up on the screen here, I don't care. You can do it exactly the way they show it. It's not a problem. If you only have 4 records, that's not a problem. That's cool. Just do it like that. But what I'm going to do, come on, is remember, if I do a select star from products, right now, in mine, I've got 11 records. You might have, again, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever, but I've got 11. And if I put in this query right here, if I say update product, set supplier ID equal 502, where product ID equals 2004, that's only going to change this record, correct? That's all it's going to change. I want to change more than that. So I'm going to just say, I'm going to put it on multiple lines, but I'm going to say update products, set supplier ID equal to 502, where, and I'm doing this so we can go back and look at some of the commands we've already done, and I'm going to say where product ID in, and I'm going to say, well, which I'm just going to pick out some from random. 1002, 1005, 1008, and 2002. Now, what I'm concerned with, please look up on the screen. Does this query make sense? Well, that isn't going to help it, is it? Does what's going on in that query that's up on your screen here make sense? This is a shortcut, okay? What we have here is a shortcut. I'm going to put it right underneath here, but I'm going to just throw it into a quick little notepad file for you. I could have typed in update products, set supplier ID equal 502, and I could have said, for example, where, and then I could have said product ID equal 1002 or product ID equal 1005 or product ID equal 1008 or product ID equal 2002. Now, to me, when you look at these two, there's no comparison as far as the amount of typing that you do. All right? Or I could have done this like this. I could have put in one. Then I could have put in another. Then I could have put in another. What is it? 1055. And then I could have put in another. All I'm trying to show you is what I've just showed you here is 3 different ways. So this is one way we could have done it, right here. This is another way we could have done it, right here. And this is a third way we could have done it, right here. When I compare those 3 ways, there is no comparison. This is the easiest way to do this. So when I hit enter, if yours comes back and it says 4 rows matched, 4 rows changed, that's a good thing. Now when I select star from products, now I've got 502 here, 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 and here. Does that make sense? You are going to have to do create statements, alter statements, drop statements, insert statements, delete statements, select statements, and update statements when you do your worksheet that I'm going to pass out. You will have to do all of those. So it's important that you understand. And for like a question like this, I might ask you to show me 2 different ways to update. And you could choose any 2 of the 3 that I showed you. Yes?
I don't get to see the supplier ID change to 502 because I don't have 2001 through 2000.
Then just pick different records. Yeah. Yeah. We're not turning this in. This is just for your edification. This is for you to understand ideally what's going on here. That's it. Yeah, if you didn't put those in, just pick a couple of them that you want to pick. Doesn't matter. It really and truly doesn't. You're going to get different output than I am, but you will anyway because, you know, if you don't have those 2,000 records, and that's fine. All right. So now we've got two different, and I'm not even going to use what's in the book here. Okay, but let's pretend, for lack of better words, okay, so this is what we have. And this is what we have. Does everybody agree with that? This is what we have. This is everything in products. This is everything in suppliers. Now our boss comes to us and says, I want you to create a report for me. Dominic, I want you to create this report. What I want is the product name. All right. I want the supplier name. I want the quantity. And I want the price. Does that make sense? I want those 4 fields. And when you look at those 4 fields, the product name we can get from the products table, the supplier name we can get from the supplier table, the quantity we can get from the products table, and the price we can get from the price table. So what we're going to have to do for the first time is what's referred to as a join operation. We're going to have to join together this table and this table. Does that make sense? Good, because the first time I have you do it, we're going to do it wrong on purpose. And the reason I'm doing that is because, especially when people start, this is what happens. Okay? Now, I think everybody would agree if you look in here, I've got 11 rows in my products table. Again, yours might be different. Let's say Amin says I've got 6. That's fine. All right, we all should have 3 rows in this table. I'm going to show you an incorrect query right now, and it's going to return 33 records. It's going to take and make every combination of this with every combination of this. All right, that's not typically what you want to do. It's called a Cartesian product join. Not what you want, but we're going to do it wrong on purpose. Then we'll make it right. So I'm going to say, again, what fields were those? Okay, we want these fields. Product name, supplier name, quantity, and price. All right, here's part of the problem. And please don't type this yet. What if I type in this? Select name. As Ethan mentioned before, isn't there going to be a problem that the system won't know which name we're referring to? All right, so I'm going to show you the long way of doing this, and then we'll look at a shortcut way of doing it. So I'm going to type in here, well, what name? Well, I want it from the products table, so products.name, and I also want the suppliers.name, and I want the products.quantity, and I want the products.price. So I want all that from the products table and from the suppliers table. All right, and what I'm telling you is this is wrong. I will get output, but I will get 33 records worth of output. All right, which isn't what I want. But if I put that in and now hit enter, there they are, 33 rows, and it gives me every combination. So pen red has got all 3 suppliers, pen blue has got all 3 suppliers, pen black has got all 3 suppliers, etc. Not what we want. All right? What do we do? I'm asking you this. We do select star from products. We get everything, correct? What if we only want products that are $1 or more? What do we have to add to our select statement to do that? What do we have to add to a select to give us criteria? What? No, you're making it too hard. What do we have to add? What? Where? We don't have a where in here right now, correct? There's no where. So I'm going to put in this same exact query that we had, this same query, but I'm not going to put the semicolon here. I'm going to say where the products.supplier ID is equal to the suppliers.supplier ID. That's your first true, what's called an equijoin, because there's an equal sign in there. So I'll leave that up there for a second. In fact, let me hit enter to make sure I get 11, and I do. There, you see the results. You have to understand how to set up a database, though. We will be doing this next semester, and then we will be taking those databases and we will be grabbing and putting in our C# controls and mapping those controls to the databases. All right, we're going to be creating what are called database-driven websites. All right, we're going to be doing that almost all semester. Now, again, if you type this in and you say to yourself, I think I typed it incorrectly and I'm not getting back anything, or I'm getting back an error message or whatever, you have to raise your hand and ask. Yes?
So that also undid your mistake?
It undid the mistake in that this is an equijoin, it's not a Cartesian product join. See what I'm saying? The other one wasn't technically a mistake, it gave me output.
Yeah.
It just didn't give me correct output. And I mentioned this to you guys when we started, you may or may not remember, but years ago, I created a database with a friend of mine. And that database literally had 6,397 records in it, okay? And what we'll get to eventually is there's a special kind of join that's called a self-join, when you join a table onto itself. And we got to that point in class. So what this person did was they joined a table with 6,937 records with another one with 6,937 records without a where. So they got back 44,375,989 records. Well, that's not good. What's even worse, they sent it to the screen. So it spent all period long trying to print out all 44 million records. And they sat in the back of the room, and their machine was not towards me, so they came up at the end and they said, I don't know what I did wrong, but I haven't really been able to keep up. I said, why? Because I got this brrrr. I said, well, all you had to do was do a control break and it would have broke you out of there. Oh, I wish I would have asked. I do too. But that is a true equijoin. It's called an equijoin because of this. If you wanted to, you can use non-equijoins. So you can use a greater than, a less than, a greater than or equal to, a less than or equal to, or a not equal to. I will tell you that 99.9% of joins you do will be done like this. Tiffany had a question?
Yeah, just tell me I have an error.
Okay. This is a really precise syntax. So if you make a mistake on something, it's going to let you know. All right? Does it make sense to people what's going on in this query? All right? I am telling it, please look up on the screen here. Let's look at these two. I can put them both up there. The first one, it's saying, okay, give me 1001, pen red, 45,063, 501. Well, then instead of 501, it's saying give me ABC traders. Okay, so it's grabbing that 501 and it's mapping it up with that 501. Does that make sense? That's all this is. Again, I go back that I was one of the first days of class when I was talking to Brady after class, and he said it's pretty much you just tell it what you want and how you want to do it, and if you have any criteria, yeah, it's very intuitive. It's much more intuitive than the C# you've been doing, because with the C# you had to figure out how to do something. Here, you just have to figure out what names and stuff to use. All right? Now, just so you know, please look up on the screen. We just did this query, okay? I'm going to put the query in again, but there's a reason I'm doing this. So I'm going to put the query in again. But right at the end, if you look up on the screen here, I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm going to say, and products dot price is less than or equal to $1. See, I'm putting another criteria on it. So I shouldn't get back this time. I shouldn't get back this one because it's more than $1. I shouldn't get back this one because it's more than $1. And I shouldn't get back this one because it's more than $1. All right? So, what? No. Oh, yeah, you're right. It's 100. Yeah, that would probably help. I could just do it like this, too. You're right. Thank you. Yeah, that would have returned everything. But I shouldn't have those 3 records, and indeed I have 8 instead of 11. Now, I said less than or equal to. If I'd have said less than, this one wouldn't show. Again, I'm showing you this stuff. These are the type of queries I'm going to ask you on that worksheet to create. All right? And I'm not going to lie to you. I want to give you as little help on this as possible. That's why we're going through, we're doing the same thing, but with different databases. We're going to do it one more time the next 2 days, working on a different database. And then hopefully, like I said, on Thursday, you'll get your worksheet. That'll be the first one. All right? And if we can keep up with that, then Thursday and Friday, Thursday will be lab all period. Friday, other than when those students are here, it'll be lab. And I'll give you about a week until that's due. All right, then next week we're going to do something similar. All right, but it'll be a little bit more complex. There'll be one more worksheet. Then we're going back to the C#. And we're going to take this database and we're going to put it and have it work with C#. All right, that's the goal for the rest of the semester. All right, so they have you do different ones, but you're doing the same thing. And I don't want to confuse you, but just so you know, there's different ways that you can create joints. There's different syntaxes you can use. There's an on syntax, there's a using syntax. Some of those I think we'll look at. It's really and truly not that important. If you've got a syntax that works, what I'm showing you is actually considered to be the older school syntax, but it's the one I've been using for 30 years. It hasn't changed. To me, it's the easiest to use because it's the most straightforward. All right, but we'll look at some of the other stuff as we go on. All right, so that was the one-to-many relationship. Now, what they're going to have you do next, everybody please listen to this, what they're going to have you do next is that field that you just put into your products table, that supplier ID, they're going to have you remove it. And you say, well, geez, I don't want to remove it. You can always copy your table. So let's say that Valerie wants, no, I want to keep that products table, and I just want to work with a copy. You can always go and do this. So you can come in here and start typing, for example. You can type create table products 2 as select star from products. And that will make a copy of your products table and it will put it in products 2 if you want to do that. But it won't copy over all the schema stuff. So it won't copy over your primary key designation and all that. But if you want to work with a copy, you can do that. All right. So we just looked at one-to-many. Now they're saying, okay, let's pretend this. Let's pretend that any product can be made by several suppliers. In the last example, only one supplier made a certain product, but that's not really realistic. I mean, you go into a grocery store and you go to buy some butter. All right? Even Walmart, who doesn't have a lot of different products, they have more than one kind of butter. You know that because one of them will be great value because they got to hawk their own stuff. And one will be, you'll have at least a couple. One will be something else. All right? So it says, if we have a supplier and that supplier supplies many products, we're going to have a many-to-many relationship. If we have a many-to-many relationship, we can't use what we just did. It's where it says there, the above solution breaks. No, your table will break. All right? Either it'll break or you'll get wrong or misinformation. It says now we cannot include the supplier ID in the products table. So what we're going to have to do is create a new table. If you look up on your screen here, we're about to create this. You're given all the steps to do it and all the code. But what I want you to realize when you look at this table, these are both key fields in the table. This is a combined or a composite or a concatenated primary key. We've taken the primary key from the products table and the primary key from the supplier table, put them into their own table. When you do this, this is called a junction or a join table. All right? And that's what we're going to do right now. Once we do this and we create this new thing, then in the suppliers table, we're going to have to get rid of that supplier ID thing that we had. Okay? The suppliers table won't change. In our products table, we've got to get rid of the supplier ID. All right, so how do we do that? Well, first we create this new table. One of the reasons I picked this one to use, I like what the author does. You're combining the products table and the suppliers tables together. So he calls the new table products _ suppliers. All right. Why did he do that? I just told you why. Because he uses the names of the other two tables separated with an underscore. All right. So that's what we're going to do. Right mouse click, choose copy. Right now, if you look up on the screen, if I show my tables, I only have those two. I've got products and I've got suppliers. Not anymore. Now when I go and run this and I say show tables, now I've got three tables. Products, product suppliers, and suppliers. Again, I don't want to take time going over this, but if you look up on the screen, you should understand the line that says product ID int unsigned not null. You should understand the line that says supplier ID int unsigned not null. You should understand the line that says primary key. Now we are specifically putting in here the fact that we have two foreign keys. The only thing I don't like about the way that this author did this thing is when you do this, I don't want to confuse you, but I want you to see this. If you look up on the screen here, when you say foreign key, like the author's got it right here, if you want to, show it to you in here. All right, so this is what we just typed in. The problem with doing what the author has shown here is what happens is now the system is going to name your foreign keys for you. And they give them really dumb names that have numbers in them. So if I wanted to give this my own name, I could say foreign key, and usually you call them FK for foreign key, underscore, and I would say this one, products. And in this one, I might call it FK underscore suppliers. The advantage of doing it that way is now I've named the primary key. You don't have to do that. But what I'm telling you is if you are working at a company where you're doing this all the time, this is another way of doing self-documentation. All right? We don't have to do it, but you could have. So I'm going to get rid of both these because they don't show that in the book, and I'm just trying to be consistent with what the author is showing. All right, so now we've got a new table, product suppliers. I can describe products suppliers, and you see what's in there. Notice it's a double primary key. Both fields are a primary key. They don't accept null. They're both integers unsigned of size 10. And there's nothing extra. Okay? So now we've got our new table. That's exactly what they showed right here. Now we can insert values in. So let's insert those values. Now if I come in and I select star from products suppliers, if I did this before, it would have said the empty set because there was nothing in there. But now I've got this. Now, like for Ethan, like for you, and I don't know about the rest of you, if you don't have any, please look up on the screen, because if you don't have any product IDs in the 2000s, then you probably want to change this and make it the 1000s. Otherwise, you're not going to get any, when we do the join, you'll get nothing back because there'll be nothing in common. The join will work, it'll be correct, but it'll come back and it'll tell you empty set because there'll be nothing that meets that criteria. So now we've come in, we've created a brand new table. All right, so we did the create table. We did a show tables to make sure it was there. We looked at the schema of it with a describe command. We added data into it, and then we looked with a select statement to make sure the data was put in there. And please look up on the screen here because the author says now we need to remove the supplier ID column from the products table. We can't use it anymore. Okay? It says before this column can be removed, this is an important concept. Please look up on the screen in the blue. You can't just remove the column. You first have to remove the foreign key of the column. All right, because that makes sure that you'll still maintain referential integrity so that your data will not be able to be corrupted. You don't need to do this line right here. If you do this show table products, all it does is it shows you everything that you've done. You can do it if you want to, the line that's in blue, but you don't have to. All right? But we're going to do this, so please look up on the screen here. We're going to alter the products table. All right? And this is the number that it gave it, IBFK_1. To me, that's not very descriptive of what the foreign key is. That's why I showed you how you could rename it yourself. But we'll just use what they have. That's fine. So we're first going to drop the foreign key. Okay? And next, how do I know if it's dropped? I can describe my products table. And remember, before, well, it still looks like it's in there, so hopefully it'll be gone in just a second. But now I told it to alter the table and drop that. Now I want to drop the actual supplier ID. All right, and it says, we'll find out, again, describe products. My supplier ID is now gone if you look on the screen here. You should be able to run through the same commands that I just did, the ones that are in your book. It starts on page 20, and it's on pages 20, 21, 22, and then going on to 23. All right. Now that we've done this, please listen, now that we've done this, now we don't have two tables to relate together, we've got three. Did you hear what I said? We now have to relate three tables together. You go, well, I don't know how to do that. Again, it's right here. And they use the other syntax too. So we don't, if you take what I have right here, you don't need that where, but if you take this, now you don't need to have a where statement in there. But I'm going to use their example, and then I'm going to explain it afterward. Okay. You can use the where if you want to. It doesn't matter. You'll just get less records back. But I want you to do that, and then I want us to talk about the rest of this example right here. All right, so if you look up on the screen, what they're saying here, notice they use the word join with the word on. If you use that syntax, there's nothing wrong with it. It's the on syntax. What you see up there in blue, what you see up on the screen there in blue, that's the same thing as if I'd said where products_suppliers.id equals products.product_id and products_suppliers.supplier_id equal this. So what I'm telling you is this query right here, I'm just going to grab, I don't care about the where clause. So this query that you see right here on screen, this query, that one, right there, and I don't want to, where did I put that? All right, that query is the same as if I had typed in this. All right, so those two queries are identical to one another. So which one should you use? Since they're identical to one another, it doesn't matter which one you use. The second one is the way that I do it. It's considered to be the older type of syntax. The one that's on top is the newer type of syntax. Some people like the one on top because it usually results in less code that you have to type in. I like the one on the bottom because to me that one is actually more straightforward. Again, you may or may not agree with that. But just to show you, I'll come right back to it. Okay, I'm going to grab this query that I just put in here. And I'm going to go back to here. Why? Because I want to make sure unknown column, products.name in name field. Well, I typed in something wrong. Name, products, wherever. Products.name, product name, product price, suppliers.name, products, suppliers, where, product, suppliers, product ID. Should have given me the exact same result. Oh, that's wrong. It is wrong. Here, I would have had to change it because I'm getting this from the products table. Let's see. From product suppliers. Okay. From products and suppliers and products suppliers. Now that should work. Let's double check. There. So I've got the same stuff here and here. So what I'm telling you is, I'm sorry, I put it in wrong to begin with. Those two queries are identical to one another. All right, so when I typed in this one before, I did it wrong. I'm sorry. Okay. And again, I'm not asking you here, does this totally make sense? If you haven't read through this thing, it probably doesn't. Okay? But there are always multiple ways of doing the same thing. Okay? Remember, if you look up on the screen here, any place you've got these backticks, you can use backticks, or you can use single quotes, or you can use double quotes with the as statement. So if you're taking something and you are making an alias for it, you can use any of those, single quotes or double quotes or backticks or grave accents, whatever you call those. All right. This one I could pretty up too, I guess. See, what I like to do when I do this is just, if you look up on the screen here, I like to write my queries so they look like this. And a lot of people think that's way overkill. All right. But I like everything, kind of just laid out like that. And I would do the same kind of thing here. It doesn't make the program run any faster. It actually should not make it run any slower. Something like that. So going back to our handout here, you saw the results, okay? We could put other stuff in here. Again, please look up on the screen. I could put in this same query we just put in, either one. So let's put in the one they've got in the book. But I could say, if I wanted to, where products dot price is less than $1. So I could add that if I wanted to. In fact, let's try the ones where it's greater than $1. All right. If I put in something where it doesn't meet any criteria, I'm not going to get anything back. Unknown column, supplier's name. Supplier's name and supplier name. I don't know what I did wrong. What bugs some people is that you can do this in multiple different ways. When you're learning, you should find a way to do this stuff that makes sense to you and use that way. All right? If you look up on the screen here, what this is saying is now we've got 3 tables. Notice again, there is no relationship between these 2 tables. Everybody see that? There are no lines between them. There is no relationship. There is a one-to-many relationship between products and product supplier. There is a one-to-many relationship between suppliers and product suppliers. But there is no direct relationship between the products table and the suppliers table. All right, instead you've got an intermediate table, also called a junction table or a join table. So that's what we have. All right, I think it's time for another break. And after the break, we'll go over one-to-one relationships. All right, and then we'll be done with this section. So it's 10:08. Let's come back. Let's make it 10:20, please.